Okay, so what I'm going to do, share the screen. Let me make sure, there we go, share the screen. And I have, I'm able to share a number of different screens based on what it is I need. In this particular case, I'm sharing my PowerPoint. And now I'm going to go to, nope, wrong one. Come on. I can't. Hold on. I can't. My controls are covering. Wait, there we go. There we go. My controls are covering the menu, and I couldn't get to the slideshow. Okay, there we go. Hello and good morning. Let's see. I am going to do that, and I am going to mute everybody just for the time being. Okay, so what we're talking about today is just when we're finished, raise your hand, wave. If you open the participants panel, you can actually raise a little green hand. I found that that's a nice place, especially if I'm doing a class or something. And this service will allow the club to continue to serve our members in a small way, especially since we can't meet face to face. So these are some of the basics. Don't need to be a member to attend a meeting, but it is helpful. There are many more tools that you can use and settings that you can work with. It is free, although I have gone ahead and purchased the annual subscription. It is $15 a month. You get a bit of a break if you do the year. And because I knew I was going to be doing this to keep my sanity. With a free account, you can host up to 100 participants. There's unlimited one-to-one meetings, which is what we're talking about today. There is a 40-minute limit on group meetings. Zoom has been waiving some of those during this tougher time, especially for family meetings. And there's terrific online support and amazing video tutorials on the Zoom site as well as in YouTube. Okay, difference between a host and a participant. Okay, so a participant is an invitee, someone who gets the invitation link, and they are invited to attend a meeting scheduled by somebody else, either pre-scheduled or they start a meeting, send the link, and so it's kind of just a new meeting on the fly kind of thing. A participant does not require a Zoom account to join a meeting, but in order to share screens, they will have to have the account. It'll be a lot easier to work with. Participants can join a meeting from their phone, a desktop, a mobile or tablet device, mobile phone, that kind of thing. And it works cross-platform very, very well. You can access a Zoom meeting through a browser. A host starts a meeting and must enable certain settings in order to be able to share a screen or allow their other participants to share a screen, whether or not you can access remote control to help somebody with their system, and this will work both Mac and Windows side. There are some limits with tablets, although I was able to connect, I think I mentioned earlier, I was able to connect with my Android tablet with a second account that I have. It's a free account. And I was able to actually share the screen from my tablet to my Windows machine and was able to control, with a touch screen, was able to control what was going on my tablet. So yes, it's possible. Okay, and of course, we've seen this. You go to zoom.us, you download the software, you go to the Apple App Store or the Android Google Play Store and go to Zoom Cloud Meetings app. And this way, our members can join any scheduled meeting, whether it's at that moment or a pre-scheduled one from any device. And this was a screenshot from a couple of weeks ago with Geeks on Tour, and it is worth it beforehand to set up your camera and your microphone either before you get into a Zoom, specifically before you get into a Zoom meeting, when the app first opens up, you can go into settings by clicking on the gear. But for here, once you're in here, you can control your audio by clicking that little arrow right next to the microphone. And then likewise, to connect your video, you would go down and click that up arrow. That's also how you can access, let me just let him in again. You can access both video settings and your virtual background settings. Let's go out of here. Whoop, I forgot to clear that arrow. Hold on just one sec. There we go. So you can still view and hear the meeting and utilize chat function without the camera or mic, but it really does help a lot. There we go. So when you first open your Zoom app, that little gear below your avatar is to get you into the main settings of the interface. Now this is before you get into a meeting. Once you open that, along the top you will see Home, Chat, Meetings, and Contacts. Home is just the opening window. Chat is to chat with those without a camera or mic. Meetings is what your upcoming meetings are, or to schedule a meeting. Oh, sorry, went back too quick, come back, okay. And contacts, you can actually add your contacts if you choose to. I haven't quite figured out the best way to work with that, although I did allow my Google contacts to connect on the system. Once you've opened the settings, these are the settings you can work with. This is just a screenshot. You can adjust video, audio, chat, virtual background recording, and more. And then when you schedule a Zoom meeting, you can use either the app on your computer or go to zoom.us, and it generates the link and generates the invitation. You have the choice of using your own personal ID for a meeting, or to let them generate a random number for a meeting number. And as you can see, John was asking before about being able to, let me get this again, here we go. Being able to see the link here. So that's the link with the embedded password. And then if you look right here, that is also the meeting ID and the password that I created for this particular meeting. That way, if we had somebody who was coming in by phone, that's what they could be, or tablet, they could just tap that in and get to the meeting that way. So, okay. When you want to connect with a member, you would open your Zoom Cloud Meeting app, log in using the email and password that you created for your account, then click the downward arrow under New Meeting, and that starts an instant meeting, and you can choose either your personal ID or have them create one. Once you've connected to a personal meeting, say you're going to go help someone, you would open your Zoom meeting, start the meeting, and then open participants, which is this panel over here. So right here, let me see if I can move this out of the way again. Yes, okay, so this right here, that's the participants window. and that opens up to the side. And then you can also, let me clear that. Down here at the bottom, that is where you can invite your participant directly by clicking on that. Also in participants, each of the members who join, each of the participants and the host have access to yes, no, go slower, go faster. That's about the chat. More information. And for participants, because I'm the host, you don't see it, but for participants, there's a little green hand that you can raise your hand to get some information from. So when you open the invite, you will see that the meeting number is listed there. The password will be listed down here. You can, what I have done is I copy the invitation and then paste it and send it via email. I found that's the easiest way to do it. You can retrieve the meeting number above and the password below to send to them. You can copy the URL or full invitation and send that to a contact who, you could text it or email someone with that information. Take the time, before you get going with this, take the time to go to zoom.us and wander through the settings. If you have questions, there's marvelous help there on the site. You would sign in as to your account. In the navigation menu, you would click Account Management, then Account Settings, click the Meeting tab, verify that remote support is enabled. And if that setting is disabled, you can click that toggle to enable it. And then you may have to verify that the change has been made. Once you and your member are connected, you can ask them to share their screen with you so that you can control their mouse or just talk them through an issue or share your screen to demonstrate. So we hope we can all consider working this way with our members, that we'll consider Zoom meetings as a way to help for HHICC to continue to serve our members during this difficult time. And all three of us are relatively busy Zoomers. So you can get help from me, from Norm, or from Joe. So I will stop the share and unmute everybody and we can have a little discussion. So let me go up here. Whoops, there we go. And unmute all.
You're the only one that's ever been able to keep my mouth shut.
Thank you. So any questions on my little, and I'll send the PDF to you guys when the meeting's finished so that you can review it if you'd like. So, all righty.
So,
Linda.
Yes, Linda.
there, the settings screen looks a little different on a Mac than it does on Windows, just as a heads up. And the other thing that you didn't cover is sharing an iPhone or an iPad device is different than you did with an Android.
But I don't have an iPad or iPhone, so I can't demonstrate that.
Right, but we still should cover it because a lot of people will call in with those kinds of questions.
I understand. And like I said earlier, I was able to share the screen with my tablet and remotely control my tablet. So I would imagine that it's going to be a similar situation with the iPhone, iPad side.
It's a little different. Steve and I started playing with it a little bit. And we can send the link out that maybe you can include in that presentation on how to do that. You have to have the person turn on a setting called, what was it, Steve? Share, I can't remember.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me, and I can't remember offhand. Okay. But there are a couple of hoops you have to jump
turn
through.
on something that actually sort of is quote unquote recording their session. By session, I mean their screen, and then they can share it. But we'll send you that link. In fact, I did send it to you. If you can look at that or include that in the presentation, then people can play with that.
I also think that because Zoom has such an amazing support setup, it might be easier to have somebody go to that, so whatever that link is, to on zoom.us to get that information.
But still,
And I would also make sure that in the discussion with the member, if we're getting these set up, in a discussion, that you talk them through over the phone, talk them through going to zoom.us and finding the settings and things like that before the meeting. Because if they can't set these parameters before the meeting, they can't, it won't work. Did we lose Norm?
Jolyn, I have a question.
No, he's here. Isn't he?
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody said they have a question, but I don't
Yes,
know.
this is
Oh, John. Okay.
John.
If
Okay,
you,
so
let me say something. Down at the bottom, there's a thing called reactions. So
Yeah.
you can do that and create that, or you can go to the participants and raise your green hand, because I watch the participants during a meeting. And
okay.
yes, John, go ahead.
So when I first joined the meeting, across the top of my screen, there's, are the little pictures of the people on it.
Right,
And I can
that's
slide left
speaker
and
view.
right. And that's now disappeared because I've been clicking all over the place as you went along to try things. How do I get back to that?
Okay. We went through this when people first came in. At the top of the screen, you see gallery view, or you see 9-box icon.
I see gallery view, yeah.
Click what you do. If you click on gallery view, it will take you to gallery view.
Yeah, now I see everybody all
Right,
over the
and
screen.
at the top it says speaker view.
Yeah,
So if you click on speaker view, it takes you to speaker view.
yeah. But I still can't get back to that, what I had before.
Yeah, I was doing that too, John, and you have to go back to, you have to find the Zoom app either on and go back to the Zoom app. It depends which device you're using. Are you on a Windows PC?
He's on Windows.
But yeah, I mean, the only options I have are exit full screen or
Oh, okay.
gallery view.
Oh,
Okay, you're in full screen?
I don't know, should I exit full screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, John, stop playing.
Yeah, I clicked on every button so far.
But that's kind of what this is about. If you don't click around and click the buttons, how are you going to learn?
What else you want to do?
Yeah. So anything else about my silly little presentation that helps? Unfortunately, because I don't use the Mac side of things, I don't, or the Apple side of things, I just am not as familiar with it. And if you guys want to put together a little presentation to share with your Apple people on this, that'd be great. And you can take I'll send you absolutely, whatever you need to do to communicate with our members. That's the whole point of this.
Steve.
It's pretty straightforward to join the meeting on iOS devices. The only thing that requires some prior setup on that is if you want to share your screen from an iOS device.
Right.
So it's pretty much straightforward on a Mac, like it would be on a Windows machine, I imagine. I don't have one. But on a phone or an iPad, an iPhone or an iPad, you do have to do that little extra screen recording step thing in order to be able to share your screen, which we would need to help people. So we'll try to get something put together on that explains it.
I don't think I had to. I think I was able, when I connected to I sent the link to myself on my other account, clicked the link, I came in, and because of the presets I did as host, I was able to do everything I needed to do. That included turning on the ability for all participants to share the screen, as well as the remote access option.
But on an iOS device, you won't even see an option to share your screen.
Not even at the zoom.us. Not even at zoom.us.
I don't know, because I felt like I had to download the app to start. So I do it through the app.
The settings at zoom.us are global. Okay, so that affects all of your, however you want to set up to work with members like this. So and they are different at zoom.us than they are within the app.
Right.
Yeah, let me just clarify if I can.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I believe that there's a difference between somebody who wants to share their screen for the purposes of illustrating what's going on their iOS device at this time, and somebody being able to connect in remotely. So what Jolyn was discussing with the Android is being able to connect to an existing participant in a meeting and see their device. What we don't know, because I read through the articles as well for the iOS, and I just haven't done any testing, is whether you have to go through that configuration to be able to be a recipient of remote support versus somebody who is actually running remote support from their iOS. So that's something we can test, Steve. You follow what I'm saying? Because right now, as a host, I can run a support session against other devices without them having to do much. But if I want to be the host, I have to do more on my machine. And so that's the one thing we have to test. Because if you want, as a Apple support person, to be able to show somebody your device so that you can walk them through and have them see your device, you have to go through those settings. I don't know if we're connecting to somebody on an iOS device who's simply receiving support, whether we have to do that, but that's something we can test. And there's Judy jumping in here.
I'm right here. Can't you hear me?
We can hear you. We just can't see you, and we can't see if you raise your hand because we can't see you.
Well, that's okay. I don't need to raise my hand, but I do have one suggestion among us Apple people. I think that one or two of us, well, actually take two, to go ahead and set up a Zoom session between Linda and me and have us check so we can each walk each other through how to do it, because Linda's obviously done it and I haven't. I mean, I've connected to a number of Zooms, but for me to set one up, and especially for us to like share my screen with Linda or share my screen with Steve, I think if we do it one-on-one rather than this group session, for us to have fun and games.
Yeah, that's why I practice with myself.
Yeah. Well, I want to practice with somebody because
absolutely.
Two heads are better than one, especially mine.
Agreed.
Okay, good.
I don't think we should allow Judy to talk if she doesn't have her camera on.
Well, Judy hasn't had her hair done in
I was just gonna
over a
say.
month, and I look like a wrath of God.
You see this mess, right? Okay. So, give me a break, Judy.
But I'm vain.
Got a picture up.
When you're my
Vanity,
age, I can
Judy.
afford to be vain.
You're not my age yet.
I'm not sure.
Judy, you do know you can set a picture up on your profile, and that will show up instead of just your name.
Well, I
There you
do,
go.
and my iPad, my Facebook picture is a lovely picture of my cat, which is just adorable.
So what?
Hmm?
I've been known to put up, there are when I've been chatting online, people have logos as their avatar. I mean, you can pick any picture you want as your avatar, but what it shows. So if I hide my camera, okay, so I stop my camera, this is what you see. So that's what we're talking about, versus just your name or Stu's name.
Okay.
I lost you, Jolyn. Oh, there you are down there. Okay.
Yeah, when a camera is muted or stopped,
Yeah.
it goes to the end of the list.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So none of our screens will look the same. Like I have Joe on the top, me on the next, then John, then Kathy, then Judy and Joe and Linda and Jeff. So that's the way mine goes. Yours are going to look different.
Yeah, I was
Yes,
trying to figure out how I set up the avatar to go into that box.
At zoom.us in your account.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Linda.
that's what I was going to ask
Oh,
you.
okay. Yeah.
How to set the avatar.
If you would take the time to go to zoom.us, up in the upper right hand side, it says my account, wander through those settings.
I have, but I just haven't seen that one. Okay.
It's the very first one.
No,
Add a
most of us
picture.
don't have a lot of time.
Okay, you see my little tiny violin?
Yeah, I know.
There it is.
And I'll give you my tiny little finger back.
Sorry, we can't
Oh,
see
this
it.
is getting nasty.
Okay, time for Joe to step in here.
Yes.
Jolyn, can you make me the host, please? I'm a co-host right now. Can you make
I
me the
know.
host?
Just a sec. I'm getting there.
Okay.
I don't know why your head keeps jumping around.
Mine,
Yeah,
because of the background.
okay.
And you don't want to see what's behind me today.
Okay. So by Jolyn making me the host, it enables me to have another icon at the bottom of my screen, which is support. So I'm going to share a couple screens. I'm going to talk a little bit about support, but before I do that, I'm going to go into to Zoom.us as it's been referred to a number of times, and talk about a couple key settings.
Yeah, 15 seconds.
All right, so
Okay.
now I'm working with multiple screens, which really makes support a lot easier if you have that option. Not required, but it makes it a lot easier. Okay, so if you actually sign into Zoom.us, I've got a couple questions before we go any further. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
.us. Okay. And at the top of my screen, do you see the Zoom controls?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. But that was something we were messing around with the other day. It's a setting that's required to allow somebody to see your Zoom controls. Okay, so when you go in, and Linda, you were asking before about the profile, here's where you can establish or change your icon right in the profile of your settings.
Good,
So you
thanks.
can make this an avatar. You can find something prettier than that. We're going to go into settings. And then there's a whole slew of these. And because if I just scroll through to try and find it, it would be a little bit of work. This is the sections of the page. I'm going to go to in meeting and advanced. And you'll see in here, there's a function and a toggle for remote support. This has to be on in order for you to have a support option on your screen. Now, you don't need a support option to share your screen or to have somebody on the other end share theirs. But what the support option does is it allows you to actually request control of the other participant or any other participant's computer, either at an app level or the whole screen level. So that has to be on. And while I'm in here, there are other settings for email and such. There's an automatic setting now for waiting room, which Zoom enabled recently for security reasons. And you have to, that will be on automatically, and you can change it. I would recommend that you keep it on. And what that means is that when you host a meeting and you invite somebody, they're going to go to, when they log in, they're going to go to a waiting room, and you're going to have to allow them as the host. And it's basically, you're going to admit them into the meeting. And that way you've got control over who you're allowing in. So there's somebody that is uninvited, happens to stumble in, which is very difficult if you control your information about the meeting ID and password, but it allows you to control that. You can allow somebody to join from your browser link or not. Okay, so if you turn this on, then they get this as an option. If you don't turn that on, then they don't have that as an option. Okay, and that's something we were talking about earlier. Can you join? It depends on how somebody set it up as to whether they have to have the app or not. Okay, the other setting in here has to do with screen sharing. Who can share? If you're setting up a meeting and you only want to have the ability for you to share a meeting, then, or share a screen, this is helpful if you're doing presentations, because some people will click around like John does, and all of a sudden, your screen takes over your screen. Everybody's looking at what they were trying to hide very quickly. So you want to make that host only when you're doing a meeting and you want to have control over it. You can also manage who can share their screen on top of somebody who has started sharing their screen. So you can't, so you don't have people inadvertently, again, interrupting a presentation. The other, you can set somebody up as a co-host if you enable, and all these features have to be enabled before you start a meeting. Once you start a meeting, you inherit these settings. You can't go in during a live meeting, make a change here and have it affect the meeting you're in. Okay, so these are, as Jolyn said, these are universal settings. So they are inherited when you start a meeting. It picks up all of these settings or controls, and you have to deal with that. All right, let me just show, there's also in here, there is a setting for embedding the invite or the password and log on. I will find that. Well, I'll find that later. Okay, so these are the meetings for most people. If you go back to the other settings, if you have multiple users, you have user settings and account settings that span across multiple users. But for most of us, where we have an individual account, these are the settings we manage. Meeting schedules, meeting settings, webinars, if we're going to record, which can be helpful if you're doing a one-on-one with somebody, you want to record it. You can set up the recording, do it locally. You can see there's a number of recordings here that I've done for a Rotary Club, but you can set up local recording, start and stop. Our meeting right now, if you look at your upper left of your panel, you'll see a little recording thing going on because Jolyn is recording this session. Okay, so that's just sharing my screen for a moment so that I can show you some of the zoom.us or the website settings. Now, this is something that I have not done before, so we're going to test and see how well it works. But I'm going to go down to my support icon. Actually, let me see if I can share this setting for a moment. Let's go to here. Okay. Can you see now my gallery view?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
And you see the support icon here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Uncharted waters here, guys.
No, what's the support icon look like?
It's like a little thing that says support, and above it, it
Oh,
has.
okay, yep, I can see it, thank you.
Sure.
Okay,
Okay, so I can do request desktop control, which gives me the ability to control an entire desktop on the other side. I can request application, which goes to a specific application that you're supporting. Or I can even request a computer restart.
Wow.
Not something I would suggest you do.
Yeah.
So let's just stay with request desktop control for a moment. When I get that, because we have multiple people on this meeting, everybody that has the ability to accept desktop control is on here. So interestingly enough, Judy is on here
Mm-hmm.
and Judy is on here.
Yeah.
Judy's. So
Duties.
is there anybody that's on an iOS device, not a MacBook right now?
No, I'm
Nope.
on an iMac.
Yep. Bob,
iPad.
iPad?
I'm on an iPad.
And you do not show here. Okay, so that's the answer to the question I had earlier about whether we need to do something on the other end. So I'm going to go to Norm and request desktop control. Now Norm knows that ahead of time that I'm going to do this, so he had an opportunity to clean up his desktop. And so he has to then allow me to take control of his desktop. Okay, now I'm going to stop my screen sharing here and go to my other one.
Meaning you're on two different devices, Joe?
I'm on two different screens. And so I don't believe that you can see Norm's screen with me.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to stop.
I think I can. It says I'm viewing Norm's screen.
Okay, and my screen is showing need resources on Zoom during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, mine does too.
It
Yeah,
shifted
and at the
over.
top, it says you're viewing Norm's screen.
Perfect. All right.
No, it
So-
doesn't. Mine says post attendee Zoom.
No.
Mine does.
Middle.
Yeah, post attendee Zoom. So we are on Norm's screen. So
Okay.
Norm, can you bring up something that will personalize this screen so I don't go roaming around so they believe this?
I can show you my desktop.
Oh,
Yeah, all right.
hey, lovely.
We are on Norm's screen. We just
There.
established that. So
Perfect.
now, if you can see the mouse moving around or the arrow moving around at the control of my mouse.
No, I can't.
No, I can't either. I can see the arrow, but it's not moving.
It's not moving.
Okay. So Norm, can you see it moving?
No, I can't.
Okay. Well, so there.
I'd say it's not moving.
All right. So now can
Now
you
it's
see?
Now
it?
it's moving.
Yes.
Now it's
Yes.
moving.
Okay.
Now it's moving.
So Norm, can I click on Greg.jpg?
You may.
All right. So here we go. I can go in and double click on this picture of Pastor
Great.
Kranz on the, so I can go in, I can open it, I could edit and create. So I have control at this point in time of his desktop. I don't have exclusive control because Norm has control at the same time, and he can boot me at any point that he would choose to. But we can go in and work together and bring up something, see the same exact thing I'm seeing and he's seeing as we're going through. So it's not us sitting side by side in the resource center, but it's us sitting virtually side by side and being able to interact on
In
his
some
screen. and
respects,
do
it's
some
almost better.
Now.
Personally, you know, if somebody hasn't showered and put on their makeup,
You know, what I
We do
meant was,
occasionally run into.
you could have actually edited that photo
exactly.
and walked them through the steps of editing the photo, and then it would have saved to his hard drive.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have the ability to interact. So this is in this case, this is somebody's desktop, not laptop. So they can't bring it into the computer center easily.
Right.
And so we can work with laptops, we can work with desktops, we can work with MacBooks, we can work with iMacs, all using this tool. And Jolyn has established that you can do the same thing with the Android tablet. We need to figure out the steps to do this with the
Somebody's clicking noises.
an empty cup.
So Joe, question for you. Can you do right click, left click?
So Norm, I'm going to OBS.
Okay.
And I do right click.
Yes.
Now, the only thing that I can't do directly is my Control-Alt-Delete will still go to my computer, not yours.
But they could click it.
But
Or
if
do
I
they-
go, yes, they can click it. You can see up, I believe you can see up here that you have the ability to set the zoom controls, to pick
No.
whose keyboard layout we're working with, to be able to annotate, just like Jolyn was doing earlier in terms of using an arrow and marking up a screen. All those options for support are in here, as well as stopping remote support. So, and anytime, of course, yep, there we go. Anytime we have support going on, we can't do it in stealth mode. They have to know, and there's going to be the banner that's there. Okay, so the right click works. We can do everything. If we need them to do a Control-Alt-Delete, that's the only thing that at this point in time is not available to us, because that's a direct command to Windows. So, yes, Jolyn.
You could right click on their taskbar and go into Task Manager that way, though, right? If you need.
I can go in here and type in Task Manager.
Okay.
I cannot go into the security settings that I can get into with a Control-Alt-Delete Windows 10.
Right.
That's what I give up. But Task Manager is available. I can run this as administrator. I can see what's going on. We can end tasks. We have those things that we can do with people, carefully, I might add.
Yes.
But they're all available to us. So, and as I mentioned earlier, you can record this. So if you're walking through something, you can record your session of what you're doing with them and send it to them so they can play it back. If they want to walk through again, how did you do that? Or how did we do that? Or what was the step after? Those recordings are now possible. So that's...
So, can you run ping?
Sure. So now, of course, the one the one prereq for all of this is they have to be connected to the internet, right? And they have to be able to get onto their computer far along enough to be able to accept to get into zoom.us or their email. So if their computer is having hardware problems, we're not going to be able to do too much. But if I want to get into command mode and I want to be able to do, ping, I can ping, I can check their, I can do IP config. And so I can look at the network settings. I can do all of those things that you can do locally, again, with the exception of Control-Alt-Delete.
Yeah, Joe, the thing I was thinking about, and specifically with that, was trying to fix a local
Printer.
Exactly.
Yep. So if I go in, and again, this is one of those things that we can't do at the Resource Center, but I can go into devices. Norm, you don't have any devices on here we can't see, do you?
You can see them all.
All right. So.
Good, clean liver.
That's right. Okay, so we can see that Norm's got a brother printer. We can go in and scan for another printer. We can look at it by IP address. We can do, again, anything that we can do locally on a machine, we can do here, but we're doing it in their settings. So as Jolyn Joe was saying and Dennis was saying, this is something that is actually better than what we can do in the Resource Center in terms of being able to help and assist somebody remotely. They don't have to drag equipment in. Now, that's remote support in terms of working on somebody else's machine. You also have the ability to share your screen and walk somebody through something that they haven't gotten to yet. Melanie, I'll get to you in 1 second. And we're gonna do some things. We'll talk next about what we're gonna do in the Resource Center to make this easier to do to support other people in terms of some equipment and things we may do. But let's hit questions. And Melanie, you had one.
Now, you obviously took control of Norm's machine and you're able to click around and change things. If we just wanted to view their screen, would we have an arrow to point them to where we wanted them to click and just talk them through it?
So good question. You do not need to have the support setting and to request control in order to see somebody else's screen. They can share their screen. Any two users or any two participants can share, can set up a session and share screens. But when you do that, then your only control is vocal.
Okay, so that you can't.
No, your arrow has no relevance to their screen.
Okay.
Or no connection to their screen. So you can say, I'd like to point over there, but, or go over and click here. Remote support allows you to move the mouse, to go over, again, to click on something, to right click on something, and to tell them what you're doing, why you're doing it. And it makes it a lot faster to be able to get to a point where you can say, okay, I'm going to go here and then I'm going to go to share, versus, okay, go down that box, right click, and then go down that box until you see share. And then when this share, it's just a lot faster to do support. Linda, you were waving your hand. You're muted, hang on. All right, there you go.
Thanks. When you first showed us your support screen, I thought there was a thing up at the top that said annotation.
There is annotation.
Huh? When you first wanted to show us, ask us if we could see the green bar that was up at the top that
Right, when I'm sharing my screen, annotation is an option that's available when I share my screen.
So then you could point to something.
On your screen.
But it's on your screen, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Joe?
Jolyn.
But when I go to the top, I see in green, you are viewing Norm's screen, and then I see a drop-down menu that says View Options. And that includes zoom ratio, hide video panel, annotate, exit full screen, and side-by-side mode. So the way I was able to put a box on Norm's screen through your Zoom was to click View Options, Annotate, then I picked, I'll pick an arrow this time. Let me do, draw, and we'll do a circle. Let's do a circle this time. So here's a circle that so do you guys see that I just drew a red circle on his screen?
Yes.
So that is annotation, and what happened is I can see the annotation block from my computer, and I can actually do things. I could even type something if I chose to. We can type, whoops, the cat's in my way, type on the screen. So that is what we can do as remote participants. So I will clear that and let Joe get back to it. So it's the view options at the top of each of our screens that allows us to do that. Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Melody, did you have a follow-on?
I did, just quickly, when you enact this feature, if you would say, go to Greg, whatever, you could instruct them to click on that rather than you click on it?
Exactly.
Okay, so you could do it either way. Either you can take control and literally click around. I just firmly believe that people learn by doing. And if we're doing this all and clicking around their screen, they're not learning as much as if we prompted them, well, this is what you do.
That's
Yeah,
true.
the benefit is you can point to what you want them to click on, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and part of this depends on the mode that you're in. So in my case, and where I'll use this is I may be going in, as Norm was saying, to figure out why somebody's printer is not working.
Yeah,
right?
I
Or
understand.
if they're connected, to the right network. And so I can do things very quickly that would take them a while to get to the point where they were doing it.
Sure.
And it wouldn't be things that I would expect them to be doing on a regular basis.
Sure.
But point out, if you're instructing them on how to do something, the more that they do, the better off they are in terms of being able to retain it.
So it's double. They can also, if you say go to greg.jpg and just wait, and their cursor can also do that then.
That's right. They have full control over their computer.
Okay.
When you are in control, it's really co-control.
Control, yeah.
And so anything that they do, like for example, and a great example is you're signing on to an app and they have to put in a password. They put in that password. They don't tell you what it is and you type it in.
Right.
They put it in, and unless it is showing up as visible, which in most applications it will not, unless they click that little eye, you won't see it. But then you'll be able to go into that app with you.
I'm going to interrupt very quickly if you don't mind. I have to leave the meeting because I have another appointment that I have to go to. You guys did a great job, and I hope to get back one-on-one with a couple of you to set up a meeting. Thank you much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Judy.
Bye, Judy.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just, Linda, go ahead.
So you probably saw, I tried what Jolyn was talking about. I did the annotation, I hit arrow, I pointed to Greg and see how it has my name there so they know who it is that did that arrow.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
Computer up at the top.
Okay, so let me just talk a little bit about what we'd like to do at the Resource Center, and we don't have a time yet as to when we will be able to get in there even to do some setup, but we're going to set up some workstations to be able to do remote support, and we'll have them set up with the cameras. We are going to try and have it set up where we have a couple with multiple cameras. So you'll be able to do a camera on a device or on a document, as well as the camera that allows them to see you. And so we've got some grand plans, but we have to be able to get in there and get them set up. But as Norm was saying, we don't expect that we're going to be back to business as normal at the Resource Center, where we're going to be sitting side by side with people for a little while. But we've got a great network. We've got equipment in there that will allow us to do support, and we can space it so that it's safe. Jolyn?
Could you go back to could you stop sharing the screen?
Sure.
There we go.
So Joe, will you say that again? You're going to set up workstations?
We're going to set up support stations. We're going to change the configuration a little bit in the support center or the resource center so that people can go in, volunteers can go in and comfortably have some space and have the equipment to be able to do calls and handle these kinds of support sessions with the tools that they need. So we're going to, as I said, multiple cameras so that we can, if we want to have a camera pointed at a device, we can do that at the same time, so we can share walking through on a tablet or a watch, where we're not going to be able to do, for example, we're not going to be able to have somebody allow us to sign on to their watch. We can still do with any of the devices that we have, including I believe, we have to do some testing, but even on the streaming side, to be able to be able to host meetings or one-on-one sessions from the resource center, and take advantage of again the facility that we have, but use it a little bit differently for the time being. That's the next step for us.
Joe, I had a question about something you had said quite a while ago. The join from browser, okay? So if you're working with someone and they don't want to download the app onto their computer, they can just join it from the browser. There's no download required.
Okay, so Jolyn had mentioned this, and you can join from a browser for a participant. It will not allow for the remote support capabilities that we just demonstrated.
Okay.
And so they can view slideshows, they can listen, but they don't get full capabilities. So anybody at this point, anybody that we're looking at for support, they're going to need to have the app installed to be able to give us those capabilities on their computer.
Okay.
Because the reason for that is your browser doesn't have the same access to your controls, your Windows OS controls or your Mac OS controls that the app can be given. So for good reason.
Okay.
Are we going to send out instructions just rudimentary instructions to all of our members saying we'd like you to download the Zoom app for future discussions?
Well, I think that's the next step for, as I see it, and Norm and John and I have been talking about this, is we need to get the volunteer corps that's going to be doing this comfortable with this first. And to be able to work out the kinks of one-on-one with iOS.
Who's eating?
And so that's my computer in the background beeping. But we have to make sure that everybody, that is going to be doing support or starting the starting team has the ability and the comfort to be able to do this by doing the one-on-ones with each other and testing it and getting questions answered. Okay. At that point, we need to then declare, okay, we're ready for support business under this new model, and here's how you participate. I do things a little bit differently with Zoom because I use it for support for a lot of my customers. And I will go into the Zoom app that you start up with the 4 little blocks, and I'll start a meeting and I'll invite somebody by just giving them the meeting ID and having them go into zoom.us and click join a meeting without having to send them an invitation, without having to do anything strenuous on their side to be able to get access, to be able to see my screen, or for me to be able to request support. So we can make this fairly easy for somebody who is not particularly adept, or comfortable with their computer to be able to get Zoom support. But the first thing we've got to do is get everybody here comfortable being able to do this with friendly faces and test it and get comfortable, because once you start doing this, it becomes pretty natural. But you actually have to do it a couple times and make sure you've got the settings properly configured so that you can do remote support and that you can request control and that you can see them on your screen. So the next step really is to do what John was doing, which is just play with it and do it with some other people and just see before we start saying, hey, we're ready to do this new support model. Norm, you may have a different view of that.
No, I totally agree. One of the advantages of us actually being allowed back in the resource center is the machines in the Resource Center will have to have, we can't expect all of our volunteers to have a paid membership in Zoom. So we're going to have to buy a couple Zoom memberships that are assigned, that we would assign to our Resource Center. So that when volunteers are in the Resource Center, they have a paid, and they get the support button, basically. So, getting back into the Resource Center, that's one of the first things, or one of the prep things we're gonna have to do is, establish some IDs that can be shared across all of our membership. And, just from a, legality standpoint, I think we want to make sure that we don't have members using the IDs, outside of the business kind of model. So anyhow, that's one of the things that when we are allowed back in, we have to set up.
I just wanted to make a
What is
comment.
the cost for those memberships?
Melanie, I just wanted to make a quick comment for what you said. I have now hosted 6 Zoom meetings for the club. And what I do for larger groups is I will set a meeting time of, say, 2 o'clock, but I'll get in at 1:15 or even 1:30. And I always have a waiting room set up. And so far, all of the members who have participated have found it helpful, and so it's not, it really has worked out very, very well. And I am going to continue to do classes this way as time goes on. Norm, are you doing your Google Drive? I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. OneDrive tomorrow?
No, but I will at some point.
Okay, so there's not a class tomorrow.
There's no class tomorrow. But no, Jolyn's done, 4 or 5 classes that have been full already, 16-person classes.
And I have another 15 waiting for the same topic.
Yeah, which is pretty neat. So the classes really are being very well received. I just, it takes a little bit more time for the presenter now to prepare a class. But the big test is going to be, this Hargrave series we were doing over at
USCB.
USCB. Obviously, we didn't do the identity theft, but Joe has got a class scheduled for May 4th, and we've got the limit set at 100. So we'll see how 100 go, learning about basic network security. And then if that works, we've got Bob signed up for 2 weeks later to do a streaming presentation to 100 people on Zoom. And that's where we'd really love to be in the Resource Center so that Bob can take advantage of multiple cameras, and we can actually, because when you get to that point, you really need a production setup with help. Sort of like the studios on TV would do, so that you don't have Bob having to switch from camera to camera to camera to get pictures of a Roku device and a stream and whatever.
Having co-hosts in large meetings is very helpful because you can have one person cover the entry, the waiting room. You can have a second person covering the chat, with the live chat which goes on, so that they can bring up a question that somebody asks. It's been very helpful. The meetings that I've attended of larger groups, 50 or 75 people, almost always have 2 or 3 or 4 co-hosts in order to manage participants, manage the meeting, that kind of thing. So something to think about as we continue. And I'm happy to host for whoever does co-host, for the upcoming meeting, by the way.
Melanie, you asked the right question on money.
Always me.
Well, that's the right question. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. TechSoup is offering a deal, and we can buy multiple memberships through TechSoup. But the normal membership is $115 a year.
Okay.
And with TechSoup,
is it 115? $15.
It's actually more for the first, but you can get multiple memberships. But for planning purposes, if we get 2 IDs, it'll probably cost around $250 for the year.
Okay.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the educational setup as well, where you get 6 accounts.
Yeah, haven't looked at that. Good, that's a good point.
So one other little tidbit on the technology. If you do a simulated background or virtual background, you're consuming resources on your computer, and so depending on your computer and capacity, you're going to be you may experience some drops with audio and video with it, because you're taxing your processor and your graphical processor to be able to support that. So something you want to experiment a little bit with before you start going whole hog, as Norm has just jumped in. A lot of machines won't even support it. They don't have either the camera capability or the video capability to support it. But those that do, you'll still find that it'll chew up some resources. So.
Okay, hey, thank you very much, everybody. Jolyn and Joe, thanks. And Joe, thanks for not going anywhere on my computer that would have embarrassed me greatly.
And I think we can
Good
take
session, guys. Thanks.
a testimony from Judy there in the witness protection program.
One of the things I've learned, that if you are in a position to use Ethernet cabling versus Wi-Fi, it improves the functionality, of course, of the
Sure.
session. But
That's a good point.
Necessity. But if you can plug in an Ethernet cable and it works well. Also, as we can see, if you are backlit, you can't see anybody's face. So,
which I am.
The more light behind you, the worse your view of you will be.
But the advantage is that anonymous testimony.
Yeah, Judy looks like she's being interviewed on 60 Minutes.
Yeah, right. The whistleblower.
I think one of the things that I love about this is, especially like I have a virtual jam session this afternoon that I'm hosting, and we are such social creatures. To be able to see each other's faces is such a treat, and I thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, you
All
guys
right.
can
Leave.
end the meeting.
Okay.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.